Okay, so this is what we've learned from our first virtual training this week. We had 2 makeup days with Stark County. Their training was interrupted right when COVID happened, so we made up the last 2 days of that training. It was 4 hours each day for a total of 16 hours. Um, Overall, it was a success. We're really happy with the way it turned out. We had 2 experienced facilitators that were willing to jump right in. We had Chan Payton and Brendan Norman, so we are very grateful to them. The peer services team was stopping in periodically just to see how things were going, and we were really impressed with how the facilitators were keeping the participants engaged and keeping the momentum as close as possible to the in-person training. We did learn that we may need to make some adjustments for the audience depending on how the participants learn best. Currently, the maximum number of participants is still 25, but we are discussing lowering the maximum participants to help with engagement and then having more trainings. There will be specific guidelines in about 5 or 6 slides here, but we did have to adjust the guidelines a little bit based on the first training to be more specific. We did learn that online training is not for everyone. There are some issues that the facilitators just aren't able to address online. So as with an in-person training, or unlike with an in-person training, they could pull someone out in the hallway and speak to them as the issue is occurring. On the online training, that's kind of limited to the chat box, so that can cause an issue, so it may not be for everyone. Let's see. So we talked.
Chelsea, just to interrupt you for a minute to clarify that chat box. They can send private notes to the individuals with their own concerns so they are not brought out in front of public, which we have had to do so in the last training. And she'll get into more of the structure of the training as we go on.
Okay, yeah, it'll be a private chat. They won't share the concerns with everyone. So these are some sample training hours. What we found from this training and from talking to some experienced facilitators is that 2 hours is about the maximum that the participants can stay engaged. So we don't recommend a block of training that's greater than 2 hours. So what we've been doing just for this week and for the 2 trainings ahead is we're having a 2-hour block of class, a 1-hour break, and then another 2-hour block of class. And the start and end times can be altered as each host prefers. So it ends up being a total of 10 days for the 40 hours. So for the training platform, we need to be able to see all of the participants at the same time in gallery view for them to interact and be part of the activities. The platform for the department has been the biggest barrier starting out. Zoom we used this week, and that worked really well, but the department does not own Zoom, and right now we're not allowed to purchase it. OCAR was gracious enough to lend us their Zoom for this week, and then next week the facilitator actually has his own Zoom account that he's going to use. So we have been rescued twice by outside organizations, and we greatly appreciate that. So Zoom will work for the training. GoToMeeting will work for the training. GoToMeeting does show enough participants. The department owns GoToMeeting, but we don't have enough licenses right now for peer services to use it. So we're working on it and we're hoping to get a platform. But right now, if you want to host a training, you would need to have your own host platform. Microsoft Teams will not work because it only shows 9 participants, and Skype will also not work because it only shows 5 participants at a time. Oh, did I? So the role of the host in the virtual training, we actually wrote this when we thought that the department would have a platform, and hopefully we will in the future. The registration process itself has not changed. That will still be the host. They'll register directly with the host, and you'll determine the requirements and the process. They will still need to have the direct lived experience of mental health or substance use. The department will provide you with an online communications template that you can send out to the participants that will be specific to the online training. So if the department has a platform in the future, then we would have you send us the names by the deadline. But if you're using the platform, if you're using your own platform, then we would just establish a deadline for registration and they could register directly with you. Okay, let's see what we have here. We do want to keep a formal registration process with this to keep the classroom professional. So unlike with the supervisory trainings where we can send somebody a link the day before, we do want to set a firm deadline for this and have the participants go through the formal registration, either with the board or with your designated host agency. So only individuals on the attendance list will be admitted to the classroom. That will also help us with not having Zoom bombing or any of those issues. Oops, sorry. So after the registration deadline, if it's a training that's funded by the department, the peer services team will try to fill any open seats with people from other counties. So what counties can do is keep a waiting list of individuals, and then when we determine that there's spots available from another county's training, I will send something out to the peer services contacts and just fill those on a first come, first serve. And then we already said we're still determining what that maximum number will be like. Let's see. For the classroom materials, we did develop a digital version of the manual that's interactive, so they can click on each module and it will take them to the space in the training or the space in the manual that's being covered. They will receive that next step certification application packet checklist as part of their online packet, and then they'll also receive a copy of the participation guidelines. And we will ask them to respond back saying that they agree to all those online guidelines before we send them the link. So for this training, because most people will not have a dual monitor and most people will not have a paper copy of the manual, we're going to ask the participants read the modules to be covered before each class, just to help with the quality of the discussion. We know that may not always happen and they're not going to quiz them, but we're just sort of asking on an honor system that they read those modules before each class. The Ready, Set, Do It DVD, we may also ask them to do that as homework. It's a 45, 50-minute video that is available as a YouTube link. We have written the specific guidelines for the participants, and I can send everyone a copy of those guidelines. So for the technology requirements, they will need to have a strong working internet connection. At this time, because the online trainings are so limited, we don't have a way for the participants to make up online class. So unfortunately, if they are not able to enter for a significant amount of time, they would have to make that training up. We're requiring that they use a laptop or desktop computer with web camera access. We understand that a phone and a tablet application, we understand that only using a laptop or desktop computer could cause a barrier for some people if they don't have a laptop or desktop. The reason that we can't use the phone or tablet applications is that they only allow you to see a certain number of participants on screen, and to have the role plays and activities go successfully, they need to be able to see everyone. We also noticed in this training a couple people did pick up a phone or a tablet, and we had to ask them to go back to their desktop. But what was happening was they would carry it around their house, they would move it around, and it was causing a distraction for the other participants. We don't have technical support available within these platforms directly from the department because we don't own the platform, so our information technology department doesn't have access for assistance. So we'll just need to make sure, and it's part of the online guidelines, that they are familiar with the online platform and that they're comfortable in their computer skills to be able to do that. So the attendance and participation requirements, we need people to be in a quiet, private, indoor room and have no outside individuals present. That is a big one because it's still the same confidential training space that we have with the in-person training. We want to make sure that there aren't any individuals present in the room. They are going to be required to have their video on the entire time, so logging in with just a phone or just audio won't count towards their attendance. Everyone will have to have their own computer where they can be centered in front of the video. Because this is an interactive training and not a webinar, they won't be able to share a computer. And then to receive credit for participation and attendance, they will need to be actively participating in the class, so they won't be able to have any outside activities going on, employment, anything like that. So as far as the participant accountability, the facilitators will have the training in gallery view, and the facilitator who is not presenting will be monitoring the participants to make sure they're engaged and doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're asking that the participants treat this as a professional telehealth visit as if they were in the field meeting with a peer. And again, they need to be centered, visible on screen. If they're looking down, looking away, the facilitators will make a note for them to come back and be engaged. We did need to develop a formal dismissal process for the online training since it's a little bit different. So the facilitator who's not speaking will be monitoring the participants. If there is an issue, they'll send them a private chat box message. If they have to do that twice, if they have to do it a third time, then they will have to dismiss the individual. There are a couple violations that they would need to dismiss them immediately for. That would be if they were recording the classroom because of the confidentiality, and then if there were other individuals present and they weren't able to move to a private space and they weren't able to ask those participants to other individuals to leave, then they would have to be dismissed for the privacy of the other attendees. The certification requirements are the same. They'll need to pass the online exam after class. They'll need to submit their complete certification application packet, and then they'll need to complete their BCI and or FBI background check based on their situation. The funding, it will be the same price as the in-person training, so $3,000 with $1,500 for each facilitator. We don't have information yet on the budget for the next fiscal year, which is July 2020 through June 2021. We have requested from our fiscal office funding to do a couple trainings in this fiscal year, but we don't have information on that yet. When we do receive funding, we're going to offer that funding first to the hosts that were canceled due to COVID. So if you had a training scheduled in March through June of 2020, we'll be contacting you first when that funding is available. If your board area has funding set aside and you would like to host your own training, definitely contact us and we can get that set up for you. And then lastly, I think everybody probably knows this email address, but it's peerservices@mha.ohio.gov. If you have questions or you're interested in hosting a training, you can email us at that address. And let me get this out of screen share here.
If you are seeing a blank screen that says hide stage and you are on with your picture, you can click that and we'll go back to all participants. And we can open this up for questions and discussions at this time. So remember, you'll have to unmute your phones. Zendaya, I think it's for the phone participants, it's *6, and for those who are on the Skype, you would go down and just unmute your microphone.
Chelsea, this is Melanie Swisher. I missed, when did you say you would know about your funding?
Oh, I think we're having a little bit of feedback here. Is anyone unmuted?
Sherry Branham. I would like to have the email address repeated.
That's peerservices@mha.ohio.gov. And actually, we could probably put that in the chat box as well. Melanie, what was your question?
I'll try this again. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
I was taking notes and missed. When do you think you're going to find out about the funding for the trainings?
Right now, we're not sure. We really haven't received information on the next fiscal year.
Okay, thanks.
Melanie, there will be money for trainings. I don't want you to think that we're just going to abolish that. We just need to know where our cuts are going to be so that we can decipher how much will we spend on trainings that the department can pay for. So as soon as we have our final budget, that will go out to our field.
Okay, thanks.
We are also in piggybacking on that. We would like to do at least 2 more trainings sponsored by the department before the end of June. I'm unsure we're going to be able to do that. We just have to work with fiscal to secure some monies. But if not, hopefully we will be able to add that on in the next fiscal year.
This is Meg with Franklin County. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ma'am?
I am on the phone only, so will the PowerPoint be sent out?
Yes, I
for
can
the
send that
attendees
out along
today?
with the participation guidelines. And we're
Thank
actually
you.
recording this, so we can send out the recording as well if you'd like that.
That would be great. Thank you.
Tara, I'm looking at your question. It says virtual is an option and not a new requirement, correct? That is correct. However, right now, we cannot promote the in-person trainings. So the only thing that's available right now is for virtual trainings. And as the state begins to open up and our providers begin to open up on board, that type of thing, then we can certainly discuss social distancing in retrospect to official trainings. Does that answer your question?
Yes, so one more question. We do have one scheduled in person. Once we get closer to the date and we come to find that we cannot have it in person, will it automatically be transitioned to a virtual, or do I have to request it?
It could be transitioned to a virtual if you have the platform to do so. We would have to send notification because you would already have your trainers, etc., and all of them would be. Let me stop there. Chelsea, are all of our trainers eligible to do virtual trainings?
They're all eligible, but we have a specific list that have the capabilities and are comfortable doing it online. So we would have to pick specific facilitators that can do the online training.
And that's something, Tara, that we can certainly work with you. When is your training scheduled for?
October.
And we may be able to work that out with social distancing. But if not, we will work with you in getting something online if that's what you choose. I'm not sure all the participants will be comfortable with that, but we will certainly work around some of those issues and try to meet their needs as best we can.
Okay. Okay. What's an appropriate amount of time to start that transition? Like, do I need to contact somebody within a month of the date, or?
I think if you contact Chelsea within a month, we can, and you have a platform, we can certainly hopefully make something. I mean, you'll know within a 4-week period if you're going to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we currently use Zoom, so that is an acceptable platform. So we'll be prepared in that manner. We'll just see how it goes, I guess.
Hey, Tara, this is Zandaya. Are you thinking that you would definitely want to move to a virtual platform?
No, I definitely want to provide the training this year, and I want to do it in any means possible.
Okay, so yeah, like Joyce said, we'll certainly work with you. Whatever your area needs, we'll certainly work with you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a question Melanie asked. It says, are you going to work with rescheduling the canceling trainings prior to scheduling future? Yes. Our first priority are those that are canceled, and that's what I was starting to allude to when I was talking about maybe doing 2 more trainings prior to the end of the fiscal year. We're going to push to try to make this happen. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it, but those will be the first trainings that we schedule when we move into the next fiscal year if we have not been able to complete them.
This is Meg again from Franklin County. Have you given consideration to adding additional facilitators, assuming that there may be an extended period of time where in-person groups would remain smaller than 10? And does that allow a smaller group to meet in person and still maintain the fidelity and integrity of the training for folks who either don't have the technology to participate virtually, or as you said, there's some people that in person is probably a better fit for their learning style and that kind of thing. but I know going from 25 to 10 would require more trainings scheduled, and I don't know if we have the facilitator capacity to do that.
I think the bigger question is the financial support from us to do that. And that's the first question I have to get answered, is what is our financial support that we can provide. Once that is provided, I mean, that's a great question, and that's a great suggestion about adding. We just have to take one step at a time. I don't want to train all new facilitators and have them on board with no ability to really kind of utilize them. So those are the steps we'll take. We'll see what the budget is, and then we'll work out the training schedule, getting the ones we postponed and canceled done first, and then we'll work with your boards and what you want to provide in your own area. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And we may, we work with a host agency, and of course we've put in the budget the cost of food and those things. So knowing that wouldn't be expense in our upcoming virtual trainings, we may have the money to maybe host one small in-person later this year.
Okay, great. We'll work with you.
Thank you.
And I can also add on, we have, I think, enough facilitators that are comfortable doing it online that we should be able to do multiple trainings. We even have some that really love doing virtual trainings and are willing to do quite a few. So I think facilitation will be okay.
So we have another question. Bridget asked, if we have board funding and platform access, where will we fall in the priority for scheduling? If you're paying for your own, we'll just support you all the way.
Yeah, I would say June even. We can put it if you're able to fund it.
And I don't mean to be crash by saying that, but that's your money, and we're going to support whatever you want to do. We just don't have the funding to start something new if we haven't completed what we've canceled. So if a board wants to come through and do that, we'll support you.
And with the scheduling of the trainings, just like the in-person training, it doesn't have to be consecutive days. You could also split those 4 hours over the course of weekends, or even like a Monday, Tuesday one day, a Thursday, Friday the other day. You can definitely split those up however works best for you and the participants.
Yeah, we have a couple trainers doing weekend schedules, and they're doing them actually. They're going to attempt to do them try to go 3 hours, but they're going to depend upon the response of their participants. So we would be flexible with that. I will give you, I guess, of my observations in the ones that I participated this week. It took all of us some time to really become acclimated to involving our participants in many ways. We did it through chat boxes. They would ask questions and they would have to put their answer in there. They would do polls and that type of thing. So we're learning how to really engage our folks so that it is as close to an in-person training and facilitating discussion as it would be online. The concerns and the problems that or the challenges that we faced this week is some of the things that Chelsea was saying. We were in people's cars. They were driving with friends. We were cooking dinner with people. We were laughing, watching our members laugh at something funny their family members said. So we have tweaked our guidelines a little bit to add a little more boundaries around this virtual type of training. We had people smoking. It was surprising to me. So, as the parents, we set the boundaries and really had our facilitators go through the guidelines again to help them understand that we respect and appreciate that they are in their own environment. However, they are in a classroom that with expectations. So as the more we move on, the better we'll get. And We are certainly open for suggestions. If you hear from your own facilitators or people that have participated, we would always be open to feedback and suggestions to make this better and improve our process.
What I might suggest for registering participants for online is I'll send you the guidelines and just send them out and say, can you agree to these? So they can read absolutely everything that will be required of them and come back and say that, you know, they're capable, they agree to follow all these guidelines, they have a private space. So that I think that will work well.
And piggyback on that, in our last session, we did remove 2 individuals. I will be open to say that. We provided them several opportunities to change behaviors, and then they were dismissed. That does not mean that they would not be able to take the trainings again. We would certainly welcome them back into another peer training session. So just as though they would be dismissed in person, they are being dismissed online as well. We felt it is essential, especially in these virtual type trainings, to make sure that the individuals that we are training are capable, responsible, and respectful enough to really be able to provide services to our peers recovering in our community. And we want to really bring forth the professionalism that we feel is needed in order to make progress and to make sure we have a solid peer services in our counties. Are there any other, we want to be real respectful of your time, and I know people get tired of all these Zoom and Skype platform meetings, so is there any other questions? Either put them in the chat box or please unmute your phones through the visual microphone on the screen or *6 from your phone.
And if you'd like an individual call, if you just put your number to peer services, I can set something up with you.
Okay, we are not going to keep you any longer. We would be happy to answer any questions if they come up later. Just give Chelsea a call, Zendaya a call, me a call. We're here for you. And after you get the PowerPoint and the guidelines, if there's any future direction you need, that will also be answered for you. The department wishes all of you a really great weekend, and be safe, be healthy, and if you're out, wear your masks. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.